Imagine walking into a pharmacy to buy medicine for someone you love, only to discover later that the drug was fake. For thousands of Nigerians, that fear is real. Now, the Nigerian Senate says enough is enough. Lawmakers are pushing a bill that could send fake drug dealers to prison for up to 15 years while confiscating their assets. It's one of the strongest proposals yet in the fight against counterfeit medicines. But the bill has also raised important questions about enforcement, existing laws, and what happens next. Fake drugs have claimed countless lives across Nigeria. Now the Senate says enough is enough. Lawmakers are pushing a bill that could send fake drug dealers to prison for up to 15 years, seize their assets, and impose heavy fines. But this is more than just a tougher punishment. It could completely change how Nigeria fights counterfeit medicines. Here's what the Senate is proposing and why millions of Nigerians are paying attention. Before we continue, if you want factual updates on the biggest stories from Nigeria, Africa, and around the world, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Nigeria has battled the menace of fake drugs for decades. Counterfeit medicines have been blamed for preventable deaths, failed medical treatments, and growing distrust in the country's healthcare system. Despite repeated enforcement efforts, fake medicines continue to find their way into markets, roadside stores, buses, motor parks, and even online platforms. Now, lawmakers believe the existing law is no longer strong enough to deal with modern criminal networks. That is why the Nigerian Senate has advised a new bill that seeks to introduce much tougher penalties for those involved in the production, distribution, and sale of counterfeit medical products. It is important to note that the bill has passed its second reading in the Senate, but it is not yet law. Before it can take effect, it must go through committee review, public hearings, further legislative stages, and receive presidential assent. The proposed legislation is officially known as the Counterfeit Medical Products, Fake Drugs and Unwholesome Processed Foods Prohibition and Control Bill 2026. It was sponsored by Senator Umar Suleiman, who represents Kwara North. While presenting the bill, Senator Suleiman argued that Nigeria's current law has become outdated and cannot effectively tackle today's sophisticated counterfeit drug operations. According to him, technological advancements, online drug sales, cross-border trafficking, and organized criminal networks have made the fight against counterfeit medicines much more difficult than it was years ago. One of the biggest highlights of the proposed law is the punishment. Under the bill, offenders could face prison terms of up to 15 years for serious offenses involving counterfeit medicines. But imprisonment is only one part of the proposal. The legislation also recommends heavy financial penalties, compensation for victims or their families where fake drugs result in death or serious injury, sanctions against companies involved in the crimes, and forfeiture of assets linked to the offenses. That means anyone found guilty could lose not only their freedom, but also businesses, equipment, properties, or other assets connected to counterfeit drug operations. The bill goes even further. Rather than targeting only manufacturers, it criminalizes almost every stage of the counterfeit supply chain. This includes producing, importing, manufacturing, transporting, distributing, selling, possessing, or facilitating fake medical products and counterfeit medicines. It also makes it an offense to manufacture or possess fake labels, packaging materials, wrappers, or equipment specifically used to produce counterfeit products. A major provision also focuses on where medicines are sold. If passed into law, the bill would prohibit drug hawking and the sale of medicines in unauthorized places such as open markets, motor parks, roadside stalls, buses, ferries, and unlicensed online platforms. Lawmakers believe many fake medicines enter the market through these informal sales channels, making regulation extremely difficult. To strengthen enforcement, the proposal gives additional powers to the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, better known as NAFDAC. The agency would be empowered to deploy modern product tracking technologies, establish enforcement task forces across the country, inspect facilities, seize counterfeit products, arrest suspects, seal offending premises, and strengthen surveillance at Nigeria's ports of entry. The bill also proposes that the Federal High Court should have exclusive jurisdiction over offenses under the new law, while encouraging faster prosecution to avoid unnecessary delays in bringing offenders to justice. According to Senator Suleiman, the bill is not simply about punishment. He described it as a public health intervention aimed at protecting Nigerians from preventable deaths and disabilities caused by fake medicines. He also said the legislation would help restore confidence in Nigeria's healthcare system while protecting legitimate pharmaceutical businesses from unfair competition. The proposal received broad support during debate in the Senate. However, lawmakers also raised important questions. Deputy Senate President Barau Jibrin urged the committee reviewing the bill to clearly define how the proposed legislation would relate to the existing NAFDAC Act. His concern was that overlapping responsibilities between different laws could create confusion during enforcement. Other senators, including Adeniyi Adigmomiri and Victor Ume, expressed similar concerns. While supporting the bill's objectives, they questioned whether some of the proposed powers were already covered under existing legislation. They suggested that public hearings should include NAFDAC and pharmaceutical stakeholders to ensure the final law strengthens regulation without duplicating existing responsibilities. Former Senate leader Yahya Abdullahi also supported the proposal. However, he recommended broad consultations before the bill becomes law, saying lawmakers should carefully determine whether amending existing legislation might achieve the same goal more effectively. These discussions highlight an important part of Nigeria's lawmaking process. A bill passing second reading does not mean every provision will remain unchanged. Committee reviews and public hearings often lead to amendments before lawmakers vote on the final version. For ordinary Nigerians, however, the broader message is already clear. The Senate wants much tougher action against fake drug networks. This matters because fake medicines affect nearly every family in one way or another. Patients who unknowingly buy fake drugs may fail to recover from illnesses. Some develop dangerous complications. Others lose loved ones because medicines did not contain the correct ingredients or were manufactured under unsafe conditions. Beyond the human cost, fake medicines also damage Nigeria's economy. Legitimate pharmaceutical companies lose revenue. Hospitals face growing challenges, public confidence in healthcare declines, and criminals continue making huge profits at the expense of innocent consumers. For Nigerians living abroad, the issue also attracts attention. Members of the diaspora often buy medicines for relatives back home or send money for healthcare. Stronger laws could improve confidence in Nigeria's pharmaceutical system while encouraging greater investment in healthcare. For now, the proposed legislation moves to the Senate Committee on Health, which has been directed to review the bill and report back within 4 weeks. Whether the final law remains exactly the same or undergoes amendments, one thing is certain: Nigeria's lawmakers are signaling that the era of relatively light penalties for counterfeit drug offenses may soon come to an end. If eventually passed into law, the legislation could become one of the country's strongest legal tools against fake drugs and unsafe medical products. We'll continue following every stage of this bill and bring you verified updates as it moves through the National Assembly. If you found this report helpful, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest Nigeria and Africa news updates. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think a 15-year jail term and asset forfeiture are enough to stop fake drug dealers, or should Nigeria introduce even tougher penalties? Share your opinion in the comments below.